so many new pieces to this IU football team.
To me, that's going to set the tone on how you get ready for games on Saturday in the fall.
I would put that Indiana room up against anybody else in the conference, and that's something that we typically don't even come close to saying.
If you want to get total sickos committee about it, there's a position battle at long snapper too.
This is the Hoosier Huddle Podcast, part of the College Huddle Podcast Network.
Fantastic. Great start. So good evening. Sammy Jacobs, Hoosier Huddle, for our weekly IU football chat, coming off a huge win over Illinois last weekend, 63-10. We should have Matt Weaver on, hopefully, and we have a lot to talk about. So send in your questions, comments into the chat. We'll get to them and fire away when ready. So it's some big news today. Lou Moore will be eligible for the rest of the season as the Judge Tillery ruled in favor of his injunction. So that mess is over with, which is good news for IU. This week, Byron Baldwin had an injury update, but not really an injury update. Coach Signetti said on Monday that they'd figure out what more was wrong with him later that day. So we shall see there. But a big game coming up this weekend. Indiana's going to Iowa, 3:30 game on Peacock. IU's a 7.5, 7-point favorite, depending where you look, which is kind of shocking to me. That's a tough place to play in Kinnick, but IU's red hot right now. So good evening. Send in your questions, and we'll be ready to go. And hopefully Matt Weaver will be here to talk some recruiting, some Indiana football, and I'll probably give him some crap for the Reds losing to the Pirates last night with the playoffs on the line. So we could talk about anything. Alex is at a wedding this weekend. We could boo him when he comes back for fall weddings. He needs to find better friends to hang out with. All right, here we go. Matt Weaver is here, and probably a good thing he's not on the screen. Matt, how are you? Oh, he was here. We'll get him back. All right, we'll work on getting Matt back. It looks like he was here, then he disappeared. All right, old Uncle Crow. You could say it. 34-10, good guys. Yeah, that's probably about what I think I said on our pod, 24-14 IU. Matt, how are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I could hear you. I don't know about the rest of them, but hopefully they do. Matt, this is we're live, so people will send in questions as they come in. I'll read them off to you. What did you think about last week's game?
Well, I mean, a little surprising at how dominant Indiana was.
Oh, we lost him again. All right, so we'll get Matt back. He's having audio issues. That's on him. I know I don't have issues. I have other issues with the site that I need to deal with that are coming up. But we'll start with the Illinois game, and then we'll get into some recruiting and things like that. So, all right,
there?
we lost it again. Yeah, we're here now, Matt.
For some reason, it keeps kicking me out. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
But what I was saying is, a little surprised at how dominant it was. But there was a part of me going into the game that it kind of felt like Nebraska last year, where you had people were still questioning how good Indiana was. A lot of national people picked Nebraska in that game. I think on the ESPN game day, I think everybody but McAfee picked Illinois, and it was kind of like that last year. And then now, I mean, I thought they could win handily. I didn't think they'd win by 53 points and dominate like they did. I mean, if you take out the play where they had the breakdown defensively, they had like 100 yards of offense. Illinois did. I mean, I think they finished like 161, and that was like a 59-yard play. They basically had 100 yards of offense, which is just mind-boggling, the domination. And I thought the offense would play well, but the defense, and I know there were some breakdowns. Coach Signetti talked about them on Monday, but the defensive front was just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, they physically whipped Illinois all game long. I mean, they could not do anything. Altmaier was completely ineffective. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't throw the ball. They really couldn't do anything. And it was, I mean, there was a lot of impressive performances last year. That was as impressive a performance I think we've seen in the Kurt Signetti era.
Yeah, and one of the big plays that was the Riley Nowakowski touchdown, where, you know, last week we talked to Rhett Lewis about giving him the old neck roll and center bar. I think he is he kind of moved out of that role and is now on. You could get him the PF Flyers because he's a burner. But on that play, one of our questions is what are the rules for linemen downfield on that play? It looked like a couple of them were downfield before the pass is thrown. I think if the pass is thrown behind the line of scrimmage and the receiver's like within a yard or two of the line of scrimmage and behind, that your lineman could go downfield. Is that your understanding as well?
Yeah, and I think they get 3 yards, and I could have that wrong, the lineman. And I haven't gone back and watched the play, and honestly, live, I mean, I was paying attention, but I wasn't paying that close of attention. But to me, that's one of those ones where if that's a pretty obvious call to see. It's not like one of those ones where a guy can miss it. I mean, if you got linemen down the field, one of the officials is going to pick that up. So I would think if they were blatantly down the field, that would have been picked up. But I think the rule is 3 yards, but I think you can go down the field if the ball's thrown behind the line of scrimmage. Like you said, I think I think they can get up and go down the field, start blocking. Because it's like, I mean, like if you pitch the ball to a running back, the guard can go out and hit the linebacker 5 yards downfield before the guy's ever passed. You know what I mean? So it's kind of similar to that, I think. So I thought it was a legal play, but yeah, it was probably close. Those are usually close. Those kind of plays are usually close because you got to kind of push it to make the play work.
Yeah. Before we get into some recruiting stuff, Matt, a lot of talk about the national viewpoint of IU, and I think this is Baylor Willikin's dad or uncle on here asking this. Unfortunately, critics won't let up unless we beat Oregon and Penn State. And I don't even think it's, that'll do it. So Penn State and Oregon play this week. One of them is going to lose because those are the rules. If IU goes into Oregon, and Oregon's would be 4-1, and they beat Oregon. Well, it's a 4-2 Oregon team. They're not very good. Or if Penn State loses to Ohio State before they play IU, and IU beats Penn State. Well, it's a 3-loss Penn State. They weren't as good as the narrative's not going to change. Let's talk a little bit recruiting. Big weekends with guys on campus. It seems like 2026 class is basically done. But how did you hear recruiting visits went, especially with the 2027 class and beyond?
Yeah, it went well. I mean, they had over 40 guys. At least that's how many were scheduled to come. I think most of them made it. I know one of the commits, LaRon Dews, this DB out of Florida. I think there were some car issues or transportation issues for him, so he did not make it. But I've heard back from other guys, Blake Smythe, Jacob Savage, Casimir Hicks, Trevor Gibbs, just naming some of Jamison Purcell. He's a 27 commit, obviously the quarterback out of Illinois. And then obviously a bunch of uncommitted guys. Jalen Brewster, I know there's been some, stuff. I thought what I heard is it went really, really well. We'll see. He's a Texas kid. I think Indiana's going to be in it till the end. And for people who don't know, Jalen Brewster is like a 5-star. I think he's one of the top 5 or 10 players maybe in the country in the 27 class as far as the rankings go. Tremendous prospect. I think the question is, does Texas Tech, which they've done, and give them credit, they're playing by the rules. Does that, I think his name's Cody, whatever, that big booster they have, do they just throw an absolute, truckload of money at him that nobody can match? I don't know if that's going to happen. I think Indiana does have a good chance. It's interesting. His dad played O-line at Ball State when Brian Haynes was at Ball State. So they were teammates. There's some other, I think there's another connection there somewhere. Somebody told me, but they've done, this is his second visit on his own dime. He came back either in the spring or summer. I'm trying to remember when. And then obviously for this game. So this is a guy who's obviously interested. When you come on your own dime and it's not, the school's not paying for it, and you're coming from that far away, obviously there's genuine interest. So I think they've got a real legit shot. It's just, we know today the game, it's about one of the big factors is NIL or rev share, whatever you want to call it. How much are you willing to pay a guy? And how much you're willing to allocate of your funds to one player. He's pretty darn good, but we'll see how much of a bidding war Indiana is willing to get into, because that's probably what's going to come down to.
Yeah, a lot on our forums have come down to, does IU have the NIL? And I think IU has a significant chunk of NIL, but how they use it is kind of like how you want to use it as a smaller market, professional team where you have to use it efficiently. And, you could probably get a couple starting offensive linemen for what Duke paid for, or reportedly paid for their quarterback, Darren Mensah, and stuff like that. And I think that's the philosophy of this staff is we're going to build the lines and get transfers and plug them in. And they've done a good job recruiting their first two classes, and you've got some impact players in Mario Landino and some other guys who've come in and produced right away. You look at Kobe Martin. Kobe Martin was the leading rusher on Saturday, and he didn't see the field outside of kickoff in the first half. Matt, let's look ahead to Iowa a little bit. What is your feel? The last time, I still have PTSD from the last time IU went there, where that game was over 4 minutes into it. And
I have PTSD from us getting booted from our tailgating spot.
Look,
and remember that, how they told us we go park somewhere and then we got booted. It was a big mess. And that day started poorly and it ended worse.
Look, I had bought a parking pass. I literally asked the security guard, where is this parking spot? They said, you can park anywhere. I picked the best spot in the lot. And the spot was even on TV before, like on BTN tailgate and stuff like that. Had like 250 IU fans there. Great time. We went on for hours, and then like an hour and a half before kickoff, these Iowa fans show up and go, "Excuse me, you're in my spot." I go, "What?" So dumped the charcoal in their spot, left, and all that stuff. But that was one. It was probably the greatest tailgate experience that I've had.
It was fun.
Yeah.
The tailgate was fun. It was just it just sucked that we got booted, and then obviously the game was a nightmare. So
yeah, and the game did not go well. The tailgate lasted longer than IU's season did that year. So, but yeah, how are you feeling into this trip? Obviously, a much different circumstance. IU is a little over a touchdown favorite. Iowa, it's always a tricky place to play, and it's where you look back in seasons past, and it's where postseason playoff national championship dreams go to die for some teams. Remember, Ohio State went in there and got shellacked, as I think they were the number one team in the country. Penn State a couple years ago at night goes in there. They did that a couple of times and lost. Michigan, it's not an easy place to play. But what's your feeling on this one?
No, I agree, and I've been there years and years ago. Actually, this how long ago it was. Hayden Fry was towards the end of his career. I was a manager, and that was a nightmare game. And I've been there, so I've seen it from the field level, and I've also seen it from doing this job. It's a cool stadium. The fans are right on top of you. I mean, literally right on top of you. Great atmosphere. They support the heck out of their team, and it is a tricky place to play. But to me, there's a big caveat. This is not a vintage Iowa team. This is not a vintage Iowa defense. I think they're going to have trouble with Indiana's offense. And then on the other side of the ball, they've never had, what I would call super, super great quarterbacks or, high low. But, and I know Gronowski has played better, but they've really, they're worse than the Big Ten. And they're throwing for 130 yards a game. If they can't hit some plays, hit some passes or hit some big plays in the pass game, I think they're going to really struggle to move the ball. I think they'll run it a little bit. They'll run it better than Illinois. But then again, that was 2 yards. So it'd be hard to be worse than that. I just don't think they have enough. They're going to have to I think you're going to see some trickeration. I could see them doing some flea flickers, some trick plays on offense. So it'd be hard to be worse than that. Fake punts, stuff like that. To say, and they're going to need some plays on special teams, and they got a guy who can provide those plays. That returner of this is legit. He's good, but they're going to have to come up, and they're going to have to turn IU over. I don't want to say they have to have a perfect game, but they're going to have some things go their way because I just think Indiana is clearly the better team, and if they play their game, my prediction was 31-14. I think this is a 2-touchdown, two-plus score win for Indiana if they go out there and play their game. Like you said, it's tricky. I just think this Indiana team's on a different level right now.
Yeah, I said 24-14 just because I think Iowa's game plan is going to be to limit possessions and hold on to the ball and have those 7-8 minute drives that, you just might not have the opportunity to score 4 touchdowns if you're IU. But, this is why you got a kickoff guy like Brandon Franke. He's 30 of 31 on touchbacks this year. He came in with a 82% touchback rate, and it's gone up.
Yeah.
He's been awesome on kickoffs. With the closed ends now, with the double decks on Kinnick, the wind shouldn't be an issue coming through the end zones. It's the game's 4 days away. Looking at the weather is kind of pointless in the Midwest, but this is why you bring in a guy like Brandon Franke to kick the ball out of the end zone. Now, this returner did have a long return at Rutgers where he took it out of the end zone. So, in a pinch, he can do that. Where he makes me nervous, and IU did it with Hank Beatty last week. I was nervous as well. Mitch McCarthy finally got off the injury report, but he did not punt against Illinois. I think this is a game where you need to have an experienced punter put hang time on the air. And Quinn Warren's done a really nice job. To come in off the bench as kind of that kickoff guy, backup punter, do both of those is really hard. It's not as easy as it may seem or look. But he's been admirable at it, but I would feel a lot more comfortable with Mitch McCarthy back there being able to put some air underneath the ball and give that coverage unit, which has been very good, some time to go cover kicks. And then I still think this punt return and punt block unit is probably the best in the Big Ten. They've had a punt block they should have had a punt block in every game. One was called running into the kicker, which it wasn't. It was a block punt or a absolutely destroy the punter 15-yard penalty. And then the offsides, I think Connor Clay got a piece of that too. So you're looking at they blocked a punt every game. Did they block a punt this week? But yeah, to your point, Iowa's offense, I think they're going to be without their top running back this week. We'll see if they get some guys back, but their top two, their second guy missed the Rutgers game. I don't know what the injury was, but Kirk Ferentz said on Monday that their number one running back will be out. Now, they always have good backups, but another question, Matt, that's been floating around the message boards, I don't know if it's been on Peaks with you guys. People are starting to sniff around Kirk Signetti. I've been to the point where I don't think he leaves Indiana, especially not for Virginia Tech, I don't even think for Florida. What is your feeling on, these internet rumors of people sniffing around Coach Signetti?
I don't see it. He just did it. He just, and I know deals can be broken. But he just signed a new extension. He made it perfectly clear. And coaches have said before they're happy somewhere. as long as Indiana has stepped up to the plate. I mean, both of you and I have both been critical of the administration, the athletic department over the years. But from a financial aspect, there's things they still need to improve on. But from a financial aspect, as far as supporting the program, giving him resources to keep coaches, hire coaches, keep Coach Owens, for example, in the offseason, stuff like that. They have more than stepped up to the plate. I mean, Indiana is paying their football coach, twice as much as the basketball coach, or pretty close to it, which is just mind-boggling for somebody who's grown up around both of these programs his entire life. To me, unless he feels like the support's not going to be there, and I think he's got a great relationship with the president and obviously with Scott Dolson. And I think he likes the way this works. I mean, I don't know exactly all the inner workings, but it looks like when he needs something, they usually give it to him. Now, there could be times that he's asked for stuff. Maybe they said, we can't do it, but it looks like he gets a lot of what he wants to get for his program. And, to me, there's two reasons why you leave to go somewhere else if you're a head coach. One is for money, and he's one of the highest paid coaches in college football. I mean, there's guys ahead of him. And two is for the chance to win the ultimate prize. Now, money, I think Indiana has stepped up, and I think that if they had to, they'd step up more. And he's proven that you can go to the college football playoff and you can compete for a national championship in Indiana, which is crazy to say. I was just saying this the other night to my sons. Indiana's closer to a national championship of football than they are in basketball. Now, I know basketball's been down a little bit, obviously more than a little bit for a while, but that's it's just an unbelievable statement to me, and I think it's 100% true. And I think Coach DeVries will do a good job in basketball, but this football program is rolling, and I just, unless he's just unhappy with something that's going on in the inner workings, I don't see it. I think he's happy here. I think he's here to stay. Maybe there's some dream job we don't know about, but he seems like a guy that he loves what he's doing. He loves where he's at. And as long as the support's there, I think he finishes his career in Bloomington.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's one of those things. I just need him to ask for better internet in the press box. Just say, hey, the coaches can't communicate downstairs. We need the super gig, whatever, Xfinity in extender in the press box, because the internet in the radio booth is sometimes non-existent, which makes my job harder. I know people don't like when we complain about sitting in the press box outside of the elements, but the internet, we feel the internet pain that the fans go through too. So I was using the hotspot off of my phone on Saturday sometimes, but what else is going on in IU football land, Matt? Any, big news out of Lou Moore? Just how big is that? Just how big is that for IU right now?
It's huge. And I mean, quite honestly, I don't want to say I wasn't worried, but I mean, and I guess it would be par for the NCAA. And I know it was more of this was up in the courts, but like, you let a guy play 4 games and then you tell him he's done. What I thought was going to happen is, they'd already delayed it twice.
Yep.
I honestly, what I thought the NCAA might do, so there wouldn't be a precedent set, they just keep kicking the can down the road till the season was over, and they'd be like, oh, okay, well, it doesn't matter now. You know what I mean? Because now there's a little bit there's a case history here for somebody who comes behind Lewis Moore to say, hey, you let him. And I thought maybe they may just try to push this back and then just basically say, okay, we're dropping it, because there was never any kind of decision made. But it's huge. He's been solid this year. I mean, Coach Signetti talked about it. I would say the one crack in the armor for Indiana right now is the safety play, and it's not awful. They're just having some breakdowns, and I think people need to realize. And I was talking about this with Jared Kelly on our podcast today. They haven't really had, and I'm not making excuses, but they haven't really had a lot of in-game reps where they've been really, what I would say, stressed in the pass game. I mean, Old Dominion ran 46 plays, and most of them were run plays. They really didn't throw the ball. Kennesaw State, there were a few in there where they probably could have, if you were playing a better team, they would have had some big plays. Indiana State didn't even have time to throw the ball 5 yards, let alone 25 yards. I mean, that game. And same thing with Illinois. But the Illinois, even though they didn't throw the ball downfield, it looked like there were some things they saw on tape of some mistakes. Hopefully you get those fixed, because like Signetti said, teams are going to take advantage of that down the road if you don't get it fixed. I think it's very fixable. It's correctable. It's communication issues. But that to me is about the only crack in the armor. This team is really playing well. One thing I wanted to ask you, me and Jared talked about this. It's interesting that they're playing kind of a 3-3-5 at times, and they kind of walk Hardy up and kind of as a stand-up end, but he also drops back. Wyatt can drop back, but it's just, are you a little bit surprised that they haven't changed it, but they've tweaked the defense a little bit this season from what it was last year?
No, I mean, that's Sig's MO. I mean, he did
Yeah.
it on offense all the time at JMU with all these different quarterbacks, and was successful. So I don't it's not shocking that philosophy is carried over to a guy in Brian Haynes who's been with him for a very, very long time. That's what great coaches do is you fit
Yeah.
the scheme to your personnel and see what works. I thought Kellen Wyatt has come in and played very well, and his he played linebacker at Maryland, and that skill to be able to be in coverage where who's the guy last year at that position, number 41, blanking on his name right now.
Oh, Linnell Carr.
Linnell Carr, he had a good season, but he kind of struggled in pass coverage, where you saw Ohio State take advantage of it, you saw Notre Dame take advantage of it a little bit, where Kellen Wyatt's a lot more comfortable at that position in pass coverage. And Stephen Daly doesn't get talked about enough. He's had a big season, and look, I know Mikhail Kamara has not had many stats, but the dude is commanding a double or triple team, and when he's not getting that, he's getting put into a power, the half Nelson headlock, a wrestling move, and all that stuff. So, I mean, I think the biggest surprise on defense to me, and David C. has pointed it out in the chat, is just how well Isaiah Jones has been playing.
Yeah.
That he's that position was kind of a question mark of what they would do with Elijah Hardy and Isaiah Jones. He came on nicely last year, but man, he has been playing with his hair on fire this season. What do you think of the linebacker play so far?
Yeah, and we talked about that today, and me and Jared were in no way comparing him to this guy. But this one thing that Jones has done, at least the last few games, has done well, reminds us of him. His ability to blitz really reminds us of Micah McFadden. Micah was so good at that, kind of timing it up and coming right through that A gap on either side of the center. And Isaiah Jones, at least in the Illinois game and some other times, he is really, and I'm not saying he's Micah yet, because Micah was a great player and is obviously, he's hurt right now, but he's been a good player in the NFL for the Giants. But Jones is just so good at that, and he's been a pleasant surprise. I mean, not that I didn't think he'd play, he wouldn't play this year, but he's a guy that you kind of thought would maybe rotate in a little bit and get some snaps. He's been an instrumental part of that defense, and it's been great to watch. And listen, this is a guy that 2 years ago I wondered if he would stick around. I mean, he wasn't playing much. He came in with Caden Turner. They were in that same class. He didn't really play hardly at all. And you kind of and he stuck it out. And this is, testament to perseverance and fighting through. And he has become a big part. And next year when Fisher's gone, you think he's even going to have a bigger role. I mean, he's got another year of eligibility. Him and Hardy could be the guys. It's been fantastic. He has been really, really enjoyable to watch. Especially in that Illinois game, he was a stud.
Yeah, and I think he had a back injury his sophomore year too that kind of limited him. But to have him play the way he plays, and then we'll see what they do. The linebacker class in this recruiting class is very good. Caden Turner has played well in the spring, has played well on special teams. We'll see if his role increases, and then. I mean, it's this team just on paper seems better than they were last year. And we said that going into spring and even fall camp was like on paper, these dudes have more talent. We'll see what they do with the harder schedule. So how about the tight ends, Matt? Coming in, everybody thought that Holden Stays would be the guy catching the 43-yard touchdown passes, and Riley Nowakowski would be the blocking tight end. But how impressive both of those guys be. I know Stays hasn't been involved too much in the passing game, but he's been really good in the run blocking game, and Riley Nowakowski has done it all for IU. He destroys people. He has more Zach Horton in him than we all thought, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I said before the season, I thought it would take multiple guys to kind of fill Zach Horton's role. And you can make a pretty strong argument that Nowakowski's almost done it all by himself. And that's not to take anything away from Holden Stace, who, I know hasn't been really involved, but he's out there blocking on the perimeter. He's doing his job. And I think there's still some more, as far as getting him involved in the pass game. And obviously that run and catch from Nowakowski on Saturday was fun. Obviously, the play was a perfect play call. And he got good downfield blocking, but he for a guy his size, he moves pretty well, and he looked good doing it. The tight ends have played well. I mean, like I said, me and Jared, I was almost apologized by the end of our podcast because how much we were talking, but this team is playing great football. And it's just they are so well coached. We've been at practice. It's efficient. The attention to detail is second to none. And they always say you play how you practice, and this team does. They play how they practice. They get after it. They're businesslike. They have fun out there, but they do their jobs, and it shows up. Does that mean they're going to win every game? I don't know. It's going to be tough. Are they going to play great every quarter of every game? Probably not. They're going to have some, is Fernando Mendoza not going to throw an interception all season? Doubtful. Probably impossible. But he's a stud.
Yeah.
Elijah
Is he
Srott's
better than you? Is Mendoza better than you thought he would be?
I thought he would be pretty good. I mean, and I thought he had a chance to be, if the year went the way I thought, to be a first round pick. And listen, it's not crazy to say that he could be in the discussion to be a top 5 and maybe even the first overall pick. The way the season's played out so far with other quarterbacks, he looks like, and the other thing is, once in my lifetime, an Indiana player was in the Heisman discussion. That was in 1989, before a lot of people's time. You're probably listening to this, or maybe not. When I was a kid, Anthony Thompson finished second to Andre Ware in the Heisman voting. And not to probably should have won it if Indiana had a better season, but that's neither here nor there. But Mendoza, I mean, there's a lot of season left to go. They got some really tough games starting this week, so he's got to keep doing it. But if he can, and I think he's going to play well. I mean, his biggest competition, or one of his biggest competition, just went down for a month in John Mateer at Oklahoma. We could have, and listen, it's not about the Heisman. It's not about individual awards. That's what's so great about this program. And Signetti has said it. If we win, guys will get theirs. They'll get recognition. They'll get attention from the next level. And he's 100% right. There are multiple NFL players on this team, and it starts with Mendoza. He's probably a little bit better. I mean, dude, his release is so quick. He's so accurate. The one thing I think he does better, I mean, Rourke was good, but he throws guys like those crossing routes with Omar Cooper, where he catches the ball and gets upfield. He doesn't get those extra yards if that ball's not perfect, and it's perfect for Mendoza. He allows guys. I think in the first half, the yard after catch for Indiana at one point was like 137 yards from the receivers. That's insane. Like, that's just crazy. And a lot of it was Illinois was playing soft. They had some injuries. They were letting Indiana kind of throw the ball in front of them. But still, his ability, he's obviously a smart guy. And I was saying this with Jared. I mean, obviously, Signetti will talk well about his players. But what he said after Mendoza on the game Saturday really, really stuck with me. I mean, he really praised Mendoza and you could tell that there's a great deal of respect and that he really loves and he's a perfect quarterback for this system. He'd be a good quarterback in almost any system. But for this system where the lot's put on the quarterback, they let him make a lot of, decisions at the line, and he's a smart guy with a ton of talent. He's probably a little bit better than I thought, but I thought he was going to be pretty darn good. And I said I thought he would be better than Rourke, and Rourke was obviously phenomenal last year.
Yeah, I think the question we all had was, can Fernando Mendoza meet the intangibles that Curtis Rourke had? And can he be the decision make those decisions that Rourke made? And he has, outside of the first game where he's still trying to learn. And I think his drive to be perfect. And look, the last 4 quarters of Fernando Mendoza football, he's 40 of 43 for like 538 yards and 10 touchdowns. That's absurd.
Yeah. And I don't care if you're doing, even on air, that's ridiculously good. I mean, but, and I get it was Indiana State, but I mean, Illinois was top 10. I think we both agree they're not a top 10 team, but that's a good team. They're going to win a lot of games. They're going to play in a good bowl game. They're not national or college football playoff good, but what he did, I mean, that was insane. There's just no other way to put it. And he's, this team right now is they're, I don't know. I mean, do you feel like they're a little bit ahead of where they were last year at the same point?
Well, yeah, because you beat a top 10 team, but it was, you kind of. I think they've grown faster. You kind of had your growing pains against FIU and ODU, and then you look at tape, go to practice, and things really took off. I think it's accelerated because one, you've had guys who have been with Signetti now for another year. You have another veteran quarterback who's, getting used to the coaching, getting used to the offense, and things like that. And then you brought in transfers as good as the G5 All-Star team was. Now you're bringing in transfers. Well, some of them are still G5 guys, but you're bringing in transfers who are just out of the P4 and probably have more talent and more experience than that. The only guy that doesn't fit the Signetti production over potential was Holden Stays, but you bring in a guy like Riley Nowakowski at tight end and Holden Stays at tight end, that's absurd. And then, Hosea Wheeler's been playing well. Tyree Tucker is finally getting a chance to show what he could do. And Landino is another year older. So I think the growth is accelerated on how they're ahead of schedule. I wouldn't say ahead of schedule, but ahead of everything. So we have a couple questions here, Matt. James Palmieri, if IU wins by 14 to 21 points at Iowa and Oregon wins at Penn State, then we could be talking number 2 ranked Oregon and Indiana at 6 or 7 in the country, both undefeated. Imagine that atmosphere and opportunity. So I'm bringing my family out, and my wife's going to go to the game. I told her to bring earplugs. That's just how loud Autzen is. Now, she's been to Ohio State. She's been to Michigan. She's been to Michigan State a couple of times. But that stadium, it only holds like 60,000. But the way it's built, that noise just comes at you. And you saw it with the Ohio State game last year with the fans with the earplugs going. Like, they didn't buy into it that was that loud. Because, at the shoe with 100 and whatever they have, 107,000, 106,000, it's loud. Like last year's IU game, it was a wall of noise. Now, when I talked to former players like Lance Bennett, who's played at Oregon and Ohio State, he said without a doubt Oregon's the loudest place he played. And that was a game Oregon lost.
Wow.
So that's it's a big opportunity. It's going to be awesome. They'll probably the good news is it's on the West Coast. It won't be a noon game, but they'll probably bury it on some stupid channel. All right, Alex Compton, longtime listener, first-time caller, although he does call in every week. Matt, how big of an impact did the atmosphere and beatdown against Illinois have on the uncommitted prospects?
Huge. Because when I reached out to guys and messaged guys about the game, my thing was, what how would the visit go, and what kind of stood out most about being on campus? And almost to a man, they said the atmosphere, the crowd, and the way Indiana played. I mean, a lot of these guys were like, one guy, I can't remember, I'm trying to think of what position, I think it was a D lineman, and he said, I'd be crazy not to want to play in that scheme with how they do things. It made a huge impact. They definitely know it's another huge change with this program. I mean, for years they'd bring guys on campus, but it wasn't the best recruiting pitch or recruiting tool in the world to bring a guy to a game that had 35,000, and by the time the game ended, there was probably 25,000 in the stands. That wasn't the case, and that's not.
I thought you were going to say 20 to 25 people.
Well, there were a couple of games where it rained like a and you could have shot a cannon in the stands and not a soul would have been injured. But it definitely made a big impression. And if you look at I think, is it all but Wisconsin is sold out? Do I have that right? I think it's
and
it's
Wisconsin's they're gonna sell out.
and it's going to sell out. It's almost, but I'm just saying. So this is becoming the norm. I kind of wish it would have been the norm at the start of the season, but I mean, it is what it is. The fans are showing up. They deserve a ton of credit. I've been critical of fans in the past, so I got to give them kudos when they show up and they show out like they did Saturday night. That was awesome. I mean, that was really awesome. Even in the press box, now you get to be in the part where the window's open, so you hear it better than we do, but you could still hear it. Like you could hear them getting riled up and waving the towels. I mean, it was really cool. To me, it looked like almost like we're getting into October. It looked like almost like a playoff baseball game where before the first pitch, the fans are waving towels and they're getting all crazy. It was awesome. And I hope it's like that for the rest of the year. Maybe, I don't know if there'll be any more night games, but I hope there is, because the night atmosphere is just different than any other kind.
Yeah, being in the press box with the open window, and I don't wear headphones on the broadcast anyway, because usually I could hear Don, and like the only places I'll wear them are Nebraska and like Ohio State. But it was awesome. You had the Bison doing the IU across the field in the stadium. It just echoes, and it's got that deep, the whatever timbre of the voice and stuff like that, and it kind of echoes off the limestone. The towels look great, and then when Pons blocked that punt and took it back for a touchdown, it's probably the loudest I've heard it. That and the Austin Stark field goal against Purdue are probably the two loudest moments in that in the stadium that I've been there for. I rewatched the game on NBC. I don't think the crowd noise translated on TV. I think they muted it a little bit. I mean, you could hear like the bursts of noise, but it wasn't super loud. But that place was rocking on Saturday. I mean, it was full a half an hour before kickoff. I had my brother-in-law send me a picture of them looking down the ramp at the security probably about 20 minutes before kickoff, and there's no line to get in because everybody was already in. So the fans have shown out in droves for Big Ten games. They've sold out. If they end up selling out Wisconsin, that's 9 straight sellouts for Big Ten games. And guess what? Indiana's like, I think 12-0 at home under Kirk Signetti. It is becoming a tough place to play. And it's always kind of been like that. When that place is full, it is loud. And it's an intimidating place to play, especially since they close it. Let's get to Phil Fowler's question. Is Surratt poised for a monster Big Ten season? And I think I'll let you answer it, Matt, but I think there's kind of a pick your poison type answer here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing about Indiana's offense is they got so many weapons that it could be anybody. Now, he's been obviously the last couple games. The first game, I think he only had maybe 2 or 3 targets. He was great Saturday night, and he'll have big games. But you got Omar Cooper, EJ Williams. I mean, they've got a lot of weapons, and then you got the running backs. Not only can you hand it off to them, but as you saw, they had some really nice play calls, especially on 3rd down where they were throwing the ball, getting the ball to Hemby. I remember they threw one to Omar Cooper when he went in motion. I thought it was a great call. I mean, and not to get off track, but kudos to Mike Shanahan. That was about as close to a perfectly called game as you can get as a coordinator. He was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I think Surratt is going to have. Is he going to have like a James Hardy type season back in the day or some of these other receivers? Probably not, just because there's so many weapons and they can spread the ball around, and Mendoza's going to throw it to the guy that's open. And a lot of times that's Surratt. And, everybody jokes about him being called Waffle House, but he really is open a lot. And even when he's not open, he's probably going to come down with the ball because he's just so good at that. So I think I can't remember. I think he was just short of 1,000 yards last year. I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was around 900, 950, something like that. He might get that. I'm not sure. But even if he doesn't, he's going to be an all-conference player. And I think he's got a shot at the next level, depending on how he runs and tests. But everything else is there as far as him being, a professional player. And I think he's going to have another great season.
Yeah, he's on pace now for like 72 catches, 768 yards, and 15 touchdowns. It's not bad. That's not a bad season. And that's because – and it's – they try to take Surratt away, Omar Cooper goes for 4 touchdowns. You try to take Omar Cooper away, Surratt goes for 3 touchdowns. You try to take both of them away, and then EJ Williams can carve you up too. Now, he's more of the shorter receiver, but we know what he can do in the long passing game as well when he needed to be. But, he's got 13 catches for 118 yards and 2 scores. It's going to be pick your poison. I mean, Omar Cooper's numbers might be absurd. So you have 18 catches. So that extrapolates out to 54, 377 yards, which puts him over 1,000. So that's 1,100 and 15 touchdowns. And that's not even counting the touchdown he ran for too. So you might have 2 1,000-yard receivers on this team based on how the rest of the Big Ten season goes. Although they might not hit it if they only play a half.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. And think about that. They played in the first, where they played 4 games, 16 quarters. I'm guessing that the 2 of them, maybe 12, 13 quarters they played out of the 16. I mean, that's when you break it down. So yeah, I think they both have, those 2 guys could both be NFL guys. And like I said, there's multiple NFL players on this team, and you got a guy in Mendoza who is sure looking like a first-round pick, delivering the ball. And the O-line, another shout out to those guys. The O-line's been great. They like I said, manhandled Illinois. This is going to be a tough test this week. Iowa's going to throw. I mean, let's be honest. We know what Iowa's going to do. They're going to try to stop the run, force Indiana into passing situations, and hopefully get pressure on Mendoza and force some mistakes. And then on offense, they're going to try to, like you said, I said it on our podcast, if Iowa loses the time of possession, they have no chance to win this game. No chance. If it's like 33-27 Indiana, this game will be a 2 or 3 touchdown win. They have to control the ball for like 35 minutes, in my opinion, to have a chance to win this game. Unless they hit some big plays, and that's why they don't have the ball as much. And I don't see that as that type of offense. The Indiana has been so good at controlling the ball as well as getting big plays. It's just, it's been, they were surgical Saturday. And like I said, I think they're going to play great this Saturday in Kinnick. It'll be interesting to see how they start off first time on the road. That place is loud, but once they settle in, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think this is where Pat Coogan comes into play too. As good as Mike Kadick was, now you have a guy who's won in these environments, has played a lot of games in these loud environments at Notre Dame, can kind of calm the offensive line down when it's loud and you need to, get a playoff without having the defensive line, time up your snap count and all that stuff. Matt, a few more questions. We'll probably get out of here at 9:30. From James Palmieri, some upgrades. We've talked about upgrades at Memorial Stadium. We need a better audio system at Memorial Stadium, which Jeremy Gray has acknowledged on X. Need big upgrades to the facility in the near future. To me, they need to winterize it. If you're going to be playing, and who knows what the playoffs are going to look like after December 1st, but if you're going to have the goal of playing a home playoff game in December, mid-December, wherever they are, you're going to need to make it able to be held at Memorial Stadium, because the last thing you want to do is lose a home playoff game because you go, we have no running water in Memorial Stadium because the pipes froze. And that happened at Spartan State. That happened at Spartan Stadium in 2022. 2022. The Dexter Williams game, the whole upper deck on the other side was closed because the pipes froze. So they need to do that. I agree. They need a better lighting system. Heck, just putting like LED lights in the concourses would make it look so much better. Press box needs to be blown to the 7th circle of hell. And then, luxury seating. That's everything. Every upgrade that IU needs to do in the future has to have their eye on revenue. How will this increase revenue? So doing a press box, it's not just for the press. You can put luxury seats in there and things like that. You could put in, I'm not an engineer, but I think if you drop stands from where like the glass is on the south side of the stadium and kind of do stand-up bars like Wisconsin does, You could sell those. Get rid of the temporary ones. They've served their purpose. They've given you an influx of cash, and they're sold out 95% of the time. They've done their job. And then obviously the audio system, because one side of the stadium can't hear anything, the other side can't hear anything because they're deaf from the audio system. But I think IU's done a great job. We've been in Mellencamp. Mellencamp on the inside looks phenomenal. Do I think it's a architectural beauty? No, but I also don't have unlimited money to fix it. But it is, the inside looks so much better. They got rid of the buzzing lights. It's brighter. If I did have the money, man, I'd just cut off the roof, raise it, put some glass in there, and make it nice looking. I think that's one of the reasons why Sig stays. If he asks for it, he usually gets it, and as quickly as possible.
Is James Palmieri, is that your ghost account? Because everything he said, I've heard you say a billion times.
He might have my car bugged. I don't know. We might have to do a sweep of the car tomorrow. So I mean, he continued anything to continue helping bring in corporate money for NIL to keep this team and staff, and I think IU's done a pretty good job, and that's where, like, game day loggers. I don't know what percentage IU makes off of that, but that's like a no-brainer thing. You don't even think twice about buying it. You're like, hey, I want an IU themed beer. Let's get it. And you get something for it. Same with all the merch from Hoosiers Connect and things like that. People want, that stuff for it, or an event. And I think that's what it is. So,
and kudos to them, for doing, we've been talking about, do the naming rights, get a corporate sponsor for the stadium or for the field, and they did that, and they brought in obviously a nice chunk of change there with the Merchants Bank, which, just like totally kind of off topic, my son Braden, an 11-year-old, one of his teammates and friends, his grandfather is the Petrie guy that runs that bank and was there at the press conference. That's his grandfather. So kind of cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I heard about him. I didn't know that this was going down, but his friend rode with us one time in the car, and he was like, do you know who Michael Petrie is? And I didn't know the name. He goes, well, that's my grandfather, and he started Merchants Bank. And then when it happened, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Braden's buddy. So just kind of cool that it's kind of a small world that this kid's grandfather just gave IU, or his bank just gave IU $50 million for the next 20 or 25 years, whatever it is.
Well, next time you see him, could you ask him that if he could make it Hoosier Huddle at merchantsbank.com?
I'll see what I can do. His name,
I will settle for
the kid's
$1
name
million.
in football is they call him Hitman. His name is James, and they call him Hitman because this kid, he's not real big, but he will come up and lay the wood to you in football. He's a good little player. So, but I'll see what I can do about the Hoosier Huddle thing.
All right. Matt, we're getting into the weeds here. What close loss, SEC loss, will keep IU out of the college football playoff this year? It's got to be Arkansas at Memphis, right? I mean, that's a quality loss. It's on the road.
That would probably not be my first choice.
Vandy at South Carolina. I mean, that's a good Vanderbilt team. What are the dumb ones? Oh, Florida. They lost to USF, man. That's a quality loss.
Yeah, I mean, because you start thinking about what you would who was Indiana? I mean, now it's a different season, but who are they compete with? So I would go with somebody like, I don't know who Ole Miss plays, maybe somebody like Ole Miss, and listen, they've got a coach he's a good coach, but he's a carnival barker. Let's be honest. Lane Kiffin.
And they're all carnival barkers down there.
Yeah. So I could see him, if they've got a loss, and I don't know, it'd be somebody like that, because that's just who I think that would try to get steal a spot from Indiana, so to speak. So, but I mean, we're only 4 games in. That's probably a better question that'll be easier to answer. Maybe 7 or 8 weeks, or sooner than that, but more towards the end of the season. It'll be a little bit easier to kind of say, okay, this game right here could be problematic for Indiana. If they lose, if this team goes 10-2, they win this weekend. 10-2, I think will at least keep them in discussion. If you win at either Oregon or Penn State, you're good. I mean, this is you're getting in the playoff, and you probably have a good chance of hosting a game if that
All right.
happens. So, but I would say to me it would be a team like Ole Miss or something like that, or I'm trying to think who else. The SEC. I mean, Auburn, obviously Alabama is kind of. I'm not saying they're a mess, but they've got bigger problems. To me that it would be like somebody like Ole Miss. I guess that South Carolina game down the road, if Vanderbilt has a really good season, maybe that's not as bad of a loss. Although I mean they got spanked pretty good at home. So
They have two losses though.
Oh, they do. That's right. Yeah. I see. I'm so wrapped up with IU and who they play. I'll start paying attention to those other teams around like week 9 or 10. When you start getting into the playoff like seeding, they start doing that kind of stuff or talking about it. Right now, it's so early. Like I said on our podcast today on our site, just keep doing what you're doing. If you keep winning, you'll be fine. You will be in the playoff. You'll be okay. I think they'll keep winning, and I think they're going to have a great shot to be one of those teams.
So, all right, we'll get you out on this, Matt. Alex is asking over under Fernando Mendoza's passing touchdowns versus Iowa offensive touchdowns.
Well, I said 31-14, so I think they'll score at least 4 touchdowns. I'm going to say let's say that the over under would be 2.5. I think he's going to throw 3 touchdowns. So I don't know if that's what he's asking me. But if it was like 2.5, I would take the over and take 3. I think he throws 3 touchdowns and they get one more somewhere else, rushing touchdown or whatever. I know you've only got him with 3 touchdowns total in your prediction, but I'll say 3 touchdown passes.
I just don't. I've gone under on a lot of this stuff. Just because I think Iowa is going to bleed the clock, and he just might not have very many opportunities to score touchdowns. Like if you have 6 possessions and you score 24 points, that's not bad. That's scoring 4 of your 6 drives, not terrible. So
yeah.
All right, Matt. Thanks for joining us. Tell the people where they can find your stuff.
Well, obviously at peegs.com, peegs.com. My Twitter is mb_Weaver. So that's where you can find it. And obviously always love coming on. Sammy's been a great friend for a long time, and his site, they do great work. So, thanks so much for having me. And thanks to all the IU fans out there who have been supporting our site and your site.
Yeah, it's been great. I'll let you get back to the Reds-Pirates game. Big game for you guys trying to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I told another Reds fan, the Reds are like that girl at the bar that flirts with you all night, and then, you go home alone.
Well, not everybody can, pick up a Roberto Kelly in the trade.
Yeah, here we go. It's just a big tease. I turned off my FanDuel subscription like a month and a half ago because I was so PO'd about the Reds. And they started playing better, and my boys were like, "Are we going to get it back?" I'm like, "No, I'm superstitious. They're winning with us not watching them." I mean, I haven't seen a Reds game in literally like a month. So I follow them on ESPN or on whatever, but yeah, I haven't watched them in on TV or anything in like a month. So I hope they make it, but I'm not getting my hopes up. They've kicked me in the what for too long.
All right. Well, thanks, Matt, for joining us. Thanks, everybody, for sending in questions, comments, and listening. We had over 750 viewers tonight on the show, which I think sets a new high on the soon-to-be-named Merchants Bank podcast at Hoosier Huddle, depending on how big of a check they want to write us. Thanks to Matt for joining us. He's covers IU football probably better than anybody else, and he won't admit that, but I will. So thank you for him. Thanks for sending all the questions in. Indiana takes on Iowa at 3:30. Game is on Peacock. If you do not subscribe to Peacock and do not want to subscribe to Peacock, the Varsity Network, you can listen to Fish and Buck make fun of me all game. Mostly Buck. But you could listen for free on the Varsity app. It's a cool app. They have pregame, postgame, all that stuff on there. And of course, come into the forums, join our game day threads, and we have good conversations on there as well. So thanks for joining us, guys. We'll post the recording on the site, and we'll see you next week.